You know, every time you flip a light switch, you're tapping into one of the most complex, high-stakes puzzles on the planet. It's this invisible 24/7 balancing act that literally powers our entire world. So today, we're going to peel back the curtain and see who's actually solving this puzzle for us every single second of the day.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? It's not random. Nope. Every single hour of every single day, a choice is made about where your power comes from. Is it going to be the coal plant down the river, that new solar farm, the massive nuclear station? Somebody has to make that call, and the stakes could not be higher.
And that whole decision-making process, it actually has a name: unit commitment. Really, it's the master plan for the power grid. It's the strategy the grid operators use to make sure the lights stay on for millions of us, and that they do it as cheaply and reliably as humanly possible.
Now, to really get this, we have to understand the core challenge here, which is the grid's constant, non-stop balancing act. See, electricity isn't like water that you can just store in a giant reservoir. It has to be generated the exact instant you need it. Honestly, the best way to think about it is to imagine you're the manager of a professional sports team. But this isn't just any game. This is a game that never, ever stops. Your opponent? That's the constantly changing electricity demand from all of us. And you have to pick the perfect players at exactly the right time to win, not just for the day, but for every single second.
So, who are the players on your team? Well, they're all the different kinds of power plants we have. And just like real athletes, each one has a very specific set of skills, strengths, and weaknesses. Let's meet the roster.
Okay, first up, you've got your veterans. These are the thermal plants, think coal and gas. They are the reliable workhorses. They're what we call dispatchable, which just means you can turn them on and off when you need them. Then you have the powerful giant on the team, nuclear. It puts out a massive amount of clean energy for a really low fuel cost, but it is not agile. It's kind of like a super strong offensive lineman who takes a long time to get moving.
Next, you've got your more dynamic players. Hydropower is like that flexible all-rounder. Incredibly fast, super clean, but you can only use it if you've got water in the tank, so to speak. And then there's the exciting but totally unpredictable rookie, renewables. Solar and wind are amazing, zero fuel cost, perfectly clean, but you have no control over when they show up to play. They perform when the weather lets them, not necessarily when you need them the most.
And when you see their stats side by side like this, it really tells the story. Just look at the speed, or what engineers call the ramp rate. A hydro plant can crank its output up or down by 50 megawatts every minute. Meanwhile, a nuclear plant just plods along at 5. That speed is absolutely crucial for managing the grid's moment-to-moment swings. It's a key part of the playbook. Now, managing this team isn't just about picking players based on their stats. Oh no, you have to follow a very, very strict set of rules. These are the real-world operational limits of each power plant, and breaking these rules, not an option. It can damage billion-dollar equipment or, even worse, cause blackouts.
The first rule is one we just touched on, the ramp limit. Think of it as a hardwired speed limit. You just can't floor the accelerator on a giant coal or nuclear plant. They have a physical limit that dictates how fast they can respond when you need more or less power. And this number, 8 hours, this shows you another huge rule: minimum uptime. Once you make the call to start up a massive thermal plant, you can't just turn it off an hour later. The heat and stress would cause serious damage. So a typical coal plant, it has to stay running for at least 8 hours straight. It's a huge, expensive commitment.
The rules also cover emergencies. Grid operators always keep some players on the bench, ready to go. We call these non-spinning reserves. They're power plants that are offline, but they have to be able to fire up and get power onto the grid in under 30 minutes if another plant suddenly fails. It's basically the grid's insurance policy. And the list of rules just keeps going. It costs a fortune just to start up a big plant. Once they're running, they can't dip below a minimum power level, and this one's critical. The total power being generated must perfectly match what we're all using at all times. All while making sure the power lines, the highways for electricity, don't get overloaded. It is a dizzying puzzle, for sure. Okay, so you've got all these players, you've got this insane rulebook. So what's the actual goal of the game? Well, it's simple to say, but incredibly hard to do. Meet the demand, follow every single rule, and do it all for the lowest possible cost. And that, of course, brings us to the big question everybody asks. If renewables like wind and solar have zero fuel cost, making them by far the cheapest players on the field, why don't we just use them all the time and bench everybody else? And the answer really is just as simple. Because of all those unbreakable rules we just talked about.
The sun sets and the wind stops, but our demand for electricity doesn't. And that's why you need those reliable, dispatchable players, the ones you can actually control, to fill in the gaps and follow all those strict rules, like ramp limits and minimum runtimes. Cost is important, but reliability is the law.
Right, so the goal is always to find the cheapest possible combination. But cheapest doesn't just mean fuel cost. You have to factor in the massive price tag to start a plant up, and even the cost to shut it down safely. Every single decision, turning a plant on or off, has a dollar amount attached to it.
And this chart shows that basic logic in action perfectly. Let's say we need 200 megawatts of power. The system will first use the cheapest generator available, that's generator 1, all the way to its max. Only then does it call on the more expensive generator 2 just to fill that remaining gap. You always use your cheapest players first.
Now, grid operators have been playing this game for decades. But right now, the rules themselves are changing, and that's happening largely because of the rise of renewables. We're entering a whole new era for the grid.
And here's the big paradox. Renewables are fantastic because their fuel, the sun and wind, is free. That's awesome. It drives down the overall cost. But their unpredictability, that uncertainty, adds a massive new layer of complexity and risk to this entire puzzle.
Just look at what keeps grid managers up at night today. Weather uncertainty, which directly hits solar and wind output, is now the single biggest source of potential instability they have to plan for. It's become a bigger variable than trying to guess our demand or even dealing with a sudden plant failure.
So the whole game plan has to adapt. Managers now keep more players warmed up and already running, what we call spinning reservists, so they're ready to jump in instantly if a cloud suddenly covers a giant solar farm. This makes those fast, flexible players like hydro and natural gas more valuable than ever. And the team manager's playbook now relies heavily on things like AI to predict both the weather and our energy needs with way more accuracy.
Which really leaves us with the ultimate question for our energy future. As this incredibly complex game keeps evolving, and as we keep adding more of these unpredictable rookies to the team, what's the right combination of players? What's the perfect mix of power sources that we're going to need to make sure we can always win the game and keep the lights on for everyone?